Police sirens wailed through the small town as the device in electronics repairman Michael's hands crackled to life. Red Moon operation active. All units stand by. The woman he'd known as just another customer wasn't resisting the handcuffs. She was smiling at Michael, as if she'd been waiting for this moment for years. "Who is this woman?" the commissioner demanded. Michael had only one question racing through his mind. Who was this ordinary-looking woman who'd been coming to his shop almost daily for 3 months, never speaking, only bringing old radios and televisions? The story began 3 months earlier on a rainy Tuesday morning. Michael was opening his electronics repair shop when he noticed her for the first time. Middle-aged, unremarkable in every way, wearing a faded coat and carrying a canvas bag. She placed an old transistor radio on his counter without a word. "What's the problem?" Michael asked in Turkish, then repeated in broken English, thinking she might be a tourist. She simply pointed to the radio and placed a 20 lira note on the counter. No words, no explanation, just a patient stare that made Michael uncomfortable. When he opened the radio later that day, he found something odd. The circuits had been modified with components he'd never seen before. Strange chips with no manufacturer markings, wires soldered in patterns that made no electronic sense. But he repaired what seemed broken and set it aside. She returned exactly 48 hours later. Again, no words. She examined the radio carefully, tested it briefly, nodded, and left another 20 lira note before walking out. This became their routine. Every 2 or 3 days, she'd appear with another device, an old television with mysterious modifications, a radio with extra antennas, a cassette player with circuits that seemed designed for something far beyond playing music. Michael began keeping a journal. Tuesday, woman brought radio with encrypted frequency scanner. Thursday, television with hidden transmitter. Saturday, device he couldn't identify at all, filled with components that looked military grade. His wife Aisha grew worried. "There's something wrong with that woman," she'd say. "Normal people don't collect broken electronics like that." But Michael was curious. Each device told a story. The modifications were precise, professional. Someone with serious technical knowledge had worked on these machines. And they all had one thing in common. They could receive or transmit signals far beyond normal civilian frequencies. The breakthrough came on a Thursday morning in November. The woman brought a metal briefcase containing what looked like a communication device from the 1980s. When Michael opened it, his hands began to shake. Inside were frequency charts, coded transmission schedules, and a folder marked Operation Red Moon, classified. The device itself was a sophisticated radio scanner capable of monitoring military and intelligence communications across multiple countries. Michael stared at the documents, his mind racing. This wasn't just some eccentric collector. This was something far more serious. Government-level serious. He called his nephew Emre, who worked for the local police. "I need you to come to the shop. Don't ask questions, just come." When Emre arrived and saw the briefcase contents, his face went pale. "Uncle, this is way above my level. I'm calling Ankara." Within hours, the shop was surrounded, not by local police, but by men in dark suits who moved with military precision. They spoke in hushed tones, examined the devices, and made phone calls in languages Michael didn't recognize. The woman appeared exactly on schedule, as if nothing had changed. She walked through the door at 2:47 p.m., just as she had for months. But this time, she wasn't alone in the shop. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us," said one of the suited men in accented English. She looked at Michael with those same patient eyes, then at the officers, and slowly nodded. As they placed handcuffs on her wrists, she spoke for the first time. "The repair work was excellent, thank you." Her voice was cultured, educated, with an accent Michael couldn't place. Not Turkish, not quite European, something else entirely. The courtroom in the nearby city was packed the next morning. Michael sat in the front row, still trying to understand what had happened to his quiet life. The woman sat calmly at the defendant's table, her public defender looking frustrated and confused. Your Honor, the lawyer began. My client has been completely uncooperative. She refuses to provide her name, her nationality, or any explanation for the materials found in her possession. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, we believe this woman is involved in espionage activities. The devices and documents suggest a long-term intelligence operation. Judge Carahan frowned. Does the defendant wish to speak? For the first time, the woman looked directly at the judge. I exercise my right to remain silent. But then the courtroom doors opened, and everything changed. A tall man in an expensive suit walked in, followed by two others. They moved with the same precision as the men who'd surrounded Michael's shop. The lead man approached the judge and handed her a sealed envelope. As Judge Carahan read the contents, her expression shifted from confusion to understanding to something approaching respect. In light of this documentation, she announced, all charges against the defendant are dismissed. This case is classified under national security protocols. Court is adjourned. The room erupted in confused murmurs, but the woman remained calm. The man in the expensive suit approached her as a bailiff removed her handcuffs. Dr. Kozlova, he said quietly, it's time to come home. She nodded, then turned to Michael. Sometimes the most important work. As she walked toward the exit, the man in the suit paused beside Michael. Sir, your country owes you a debt of gratitude. Dr. Kozlova has been undercover for 8 years, monitoring hostile intelligence networks. Your careful attention to her equipment helped us track down the last members of a dangerous cell. Michael felt dizzy. But the devices, they were broken. No, the man smiled. They were being tested. Each repair you made helped her maintain her cover while feeding information to our operatives. You've been part of a counterintelligence operation without knowing it. Outside the courthouse, Michael watched as Dr. Kozlova got into a black car. She looked back at him through the window, gave a slight nod, and was gone. The official story in the local newspapers mentioned only a resolved case of suspected smuggling. No mention of espionage. No details about the mysterious woman or the classified documents. Michael returned to his shop, but everything felt different. The routine repairs seemed mundane after months of working on sophisticated spy equipment. He found himself examining each new device more carefully, wondering if any of his other customers might be more than they seemed. 2 weeks later, a young man entered the shop carrying an old shortwave radio. He was polite, well-dressed, and spoke perfect Turkish. But something about him reminded Michael of Dr. Kozlova. I heard you do excellent work, the man said, placing the radio on the counter. This belonged to my grandfather. It has sentimental value. Michael opened the radio that evening. Inside, he found modern encryption hardware hidden within the vintage components. Attached was a small note. Some stories never end, they just find new chapters. This time, Michael didn't hesitate. He called the number the man in the suit had given him. This is Michael from the electronics shop, he said when someone answered. I think I have another interesting customer. We'll send someone right away, came the reply. Welcome to the team, Mr. Michael. As he hung up the phone, Michael realized his life had changed forever. He was no longer just a small-town repairman. He was part of something bigger. Something that operated in the shadows to keep ordinary people safe. The next morning, he put up a new sign in his shop window. All electronics repaired, no questions asked. Regular customers saw it as a simple business slogan, but those who knew what to look for understood it as something else entirely. A message that this ordinary shop in a small Turkish town was now part of an extraordinary network. Dr. Kozlova was gone, but her legacy remained. And somewhere in the world, other quiet heroes were carrying on the work, hiding in plain sight, protecting secrets that most people would never know existed. Michael smiled as he opened his shop for another day. Life had become far more interesting than he'd ever imagined. Sometimes the most important battles are fought not on grand stages, but in small towns, by ordinary people who rise to extraordinary circumstances. And sometimes, the person sitting across from you at the repair counter might be fighting for the safety of the world.